How should we start? We're
Well,
going to start with a question.
yeah. So I think your question was, can we fix government? And
Yeah.
this is an interesting question because I think like, a lot of our conversations on this podcast have somehow led towards some form of governance of society and organizations and
A
that sort of thing.
lot of criticism of God. I think one thing we are
Yeah,
both
fair enough.
fairly fairly aligned on is, you know, the effect of governance, governments.
Yeah,
So yeah, so that, I think I was thinking it's worthwhile having like a conversation. Like, can you fix govern? Because if we can't, if we, I don't think if we can't really come up with an alternative,
mm.
do we have the right to criticize the existing?
Yeah. So I guess there's kind of two questions hidden within the question of can we fix government/governance. One is like, can we come up with a better system that might serve people's genuine needs and interests better. But also, then the second question is not can you just come up with a better system, but can you come up with a way of getting there from where we are now?
Yeah, and I think that is where I've got a very interesting idea I want to present to you. So yeah,
Okay.
maybe let's talk about the first one then. Like, what is
Mm.
the better system, and how do we get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is quite interesting. I'm really grateful that somebody at work, Joseph, who is our head of research. One of the things he's been looking at and he's personally interested in is this kind of like question of consensus. And he just wrote a great piece which I put in the show notes, which I'm really grateful for. And I told him I'm really grateful you've done this because you've basically done my research for the podcast episode, so I don't have to really like get all this data together. But yeah, so one of the things is, what is the governance system that works? I mean, you can have multiple governance systems. You can have, a dictatorship. There's an argument to say, maybe dictatorships work. You could have democracy, and there's arguments that maybe democracy, like in its current form, we do live in democracies right now, and it doesn't seem to be working. We talked about like communism in the past. I don't think we've ever really had communism. I don't think anybody was like running around in the 1960s going, "Oh, this is true communism." We seem to be a dictatorship, and so kind of there's multiple forms of that. The way I think, kind of, if I think about the kind of governance I want to have, is kind of participatory consensus, participatory democracy. So there's like representative democracy, which is like I elect people and then
Yeah.
they represent me, right? And I think that's the thing that I don't agree with, and it doesn't seem to ever work because the people we constantly seem to elect almost never seem to represent us, and the people we want to elect who would seem to do a good job to represent us never seem to get past that place of actually eventually getting elected. And there's many examples of people who got elected and who just once you're institutionalized, once you're in that engine, you just lose out. So I think about it a lot from participatory. So like, how do we, and then we're talking about a model where you're not electing a leader and then saying, right, you now make all the decisions, but make sure you make the decisions that you said you would make, and also reach out to me when you've got something new that you haven't discussed before. It's never like that. Whereas participatory is more like we all get together as individuals, and when there's issues that are important to us, we sit and we discuss, and then we as a collective agree on the decision. Then that's the decision that gets adopted by your country. That's the governance model that I like. That's the governance model I literally like as an organization that we run. That is literally our governance model. Is we run via consensus and we get people together. And that's basically the world I want the world to be. As I think that is the governance model that we want. When we got back to kind of Athenian democracy back in the day, the first birthplace of democracy, that was a participatory democratic process. Anybody could go and anybody could voice their views and their opinions, and they could get people behind them and they could raise their own stuff. There was no like representative elective process. It was done via random, but not
By
random
lot.
selection, by lot. It had problems because slaves and women weren't allowed to to vote. But until recently, slaves and women weren't allowed to vote in
Even here.
right? So it's a fairly new, fairly wild thing. But still, it was participatory. It was participatory, and it had issues.
And
I
mean that was the origin of democracy, and I would argue it was like almost like a prototype of the idea that only lasted a couple hundred years before it got overthrown again. But I would argue that we don't actually even have that. We have the advantage that we don't have slaves, and that women are allowed to participate in the system that we have. If you look at the structure of the system itself, I'd say that if Greek democracy was version 1.0, we're running 0.5.
yeah. Or we're calling it. We just changed. The label on the tin is still democracy, but we just changed what was inside it.
Yes,
and people haven't really cottoned on.
Yeah, and
it's not really democracy.
And Plato, I mean, he kind of had these different, in the Republic, he talked about different models of governance, and I think tyranny or dictatorship, whatever he called it, was at the bottom of his list as the worst option. But the second worst option in his list was democracy. and the reason he gave was that if you have democracy, it will inevitably degenerate into demagoguery.
Yeah.
Which is basically where you have charismatic people who promise people their dreams but don't ever intend to deliver on them, and basically control the herd with a combination of baiting them with saying I will fulfill all your dreams, while also making them afraid of alternative possibilities. But actually, really all they care about is serving their own interests of wealth and power.
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah, and so I feel like when I look at our current system, I think, well, I'm not sure it's ever been democracy. It's almost like we went straight into demagoguery.
Yeah.
Maybe when I don't know, maybe there was a period when communication was less instant as it is now, when it was harder to be a demagogue because you really couldn't just put a tweet out and it just goes out to everybody. It took a time. But then it was more, there is kind of this so when you apply that to the modern era, it's now kind of it's evolved in kind of different areas, and it's kind of landed at something called digital democracy, which is how can digital technology kind of help solve a lot of these problems. And we described demagoguery. That's why I think it's the democracy I'm talking about is one that involves the people, and it involves a real discussion between people. Not a voting. Hey, vote for me. This is what I promise you. You can have people in this world that's hey, listen to my arguments. My arguments were really good, but you're all going to vote on the issue afterwards yourself. But I'm going to make very compelling and arguments. But there's really there's a guy called there's this thing called Habermas, who's kind of one of the guy that's kind of more on the idea of you can have this deliberative democracy where people kind of discuss, and that is really you get consensus. And he described consensus as this authentic agreement reached through reasoned dialogue and deliberation under ideal conditions. And those ideal conditions include the ability to freely question any assertion, enter any position into the discourse, and express any view without hesitation, which amounts to freedom from coercion. So it's kind of that whole freedom of speech aspect of it as well. It's called communicative rationality. So that's kind of, under those conditions, you can actually have a group of people that come up with a good consensus decision. The problems with that approach is that the people have got to be informed.
Yeah.
The people who are deliberating got to be informed, and it's been shown that if you have an uninformed population discussing something very nuanced, you don't get a good decision, because then you get those people going, do you know what, that's crap. Mills kill this, and you don't want them because of that. And they go, oh yeah, you're right, and I won't agree. So it's got to be this informed set of people that are willing to, and they're kind of engaged in the process. So if you've got that, and they're willing then to also just have everything on the table and discuss it.
Yeah.
If you can have that, then you can really get a good democratic process. There are other people that there's this I forgot the name of the guy, Riker, who just saw the world as very different, as like, look, everybody's just this actor that's trying to like play a game and game the system, and that's why democracy never really can work. And I'd argue, kind of, when you go to Plato and you're like, democracy is just one above tyranny, I would argue, yes, if you've got an uninformed population, if you've not got kind of the technology that we have today, yeah, I would argue that democracy perhaps hasn't ever worked and could never have worked because of that approach, because you've got like this uninformed population. What is one of the things that dictators do when they come into power? They like destroy, they get rid of all of the thinkers. Yeah. They destroy the educational systems. They don't want an informed population, because the informed population is what's going to challenge them in the future.
Yeah.
So,
and it's that thing of like, I mean, people say knowledge is power. But in a way, it's sort of like access to information is power,
removing access to information is power.
Yeah, because access to information is actually the threat to concentrated power.
Yeah. Oh, so how do we get there? It's kind of this idea.
How do we get there?
So I had this idea. No, it's going to be very quick. It's not like a big thesis I've got. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I haven't really. I try not to vocalize some of these ideas too much, because then I just want to see how they land. Yeah. So I haven't really thought things through. So I was thinking, how do you, like, imagine that we're in the UK. How do we change the UK government? There's no point, because you and I both believe, I think, there's not really a point. Anybody, let's say one of us becomes a politician, we're not going to solve this problem by becoming a politician and becoming the leader of this country. I don't think we're going to solve it and just having the same systems in place.
I don't think so.
That we have.
No. It's just quickly on that. It's funny that you mention it, because after our last call, you mentioned we were going to talk about this topic, and I had just, like, not long before the call, been talking to Vanita about, I'd realised that it's, you know how when you're at school, like, some people want to be a train driver and some people want to be an astronaut, and there's always like one or two kids who want to be the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And of course it's completely unrealistic, and they're never going to be the Prime Minister. But well, weirdly, like a couple of weeks ago,
you went to school with Keir Starmer.
No, but my uncle, my other uncle sent me a photograph of my mum's brother at an Indian restaurant having dinner with Keir Starmer. And I was like, what the hell is happening? I genuinely thought I'd entered a parallel universe where like, my uncle is some like really down-to-earth, like, normal guy. Like, why is he having dinner with the Prime Minister and, like, just hanging out casually as you do? And it turned out that a good friend of his was a school friend of Keir Starmer, and they were just kids who went to school together, and one of them had grown up to be the Prime Minister. He was, like, Keir Starmer was literally that kid. And they were at a relatively normal school, I think, not at, like, Eton or something. And
that's a positive.
It just got me thinking about, like, is it, like, how feasible is it to become the Prime Minister? And I very quickly kind of went through it in my head, and I was like, it's not, even now, like, for you or me at this stage, if that was, like, if we said, like, nothing else matters, that is what we're going to dedicate our lives to, it's implausible, but it's not impossible.
No.
Like my local...
No, I could,
my local area, the joke is that the Conservative Party could put up a sack of potatoes as a candidate and they would win, right? It's like, it doesn't matter who they put. And the two candidates that they had, like, for a long time, the same people every time, are terrible. And even people who vote Conservative know that. But it's just like, well, they're just the, like, person who's been approved.
We identify as Conservative.
Yeah, but they're old, which means they need replacing. So if you get in with the local Conservative Party and you, like, you know, you hobnob and you, like, do all the right things, it's not impossible that you could end up being like the next young dynamic candidate, like, you know, when the old guards stand down, and then you become a Conservative MP because you're, you know, better than a sack of potatoes. And then you're a Conservative MP, so then you can start like hobnobbing at a higher level, and then, you know, if you stick with it for 20 years, by the time you're in your 60s, you might have a chance.
You just have to say a lot of things right now, which you're not happy about. You'd have to say,
have to lie through your teeth and pretend that you want things that you don't want, and you'd have to be prepared to stab people in the back and screw them over, and literally just not care about anything except.
And then lie, and then completely gaslight everybody a week later. So you never said that.
Yeah, exactly. If you can demonstrate all of those skills, then
perfect Prime Minister.
You could do it. Yeah,
could do it. Yeah. So that's why it's.
But then at that point, even if you'd like been like the sheep, well, it's almost like the sheep in wolf's clothing, isn't it? Like,
yeah, you can come out. Aha! I'm actually a good person.
Yeah.
When I said all those things about immigrants, I was lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you'd get there and you'd become Prime Minister, and then by that point you'd basically just be a two-faced psychopaths with no credibility, and the whole thing would have been completely pointless.
But the things you've got to do to get up to that level, and the compromises you have to make, and the things mistakes you're going to make as well, just the mistakes you're going to make trying to effectively get a bunch of people, and it doesn't really matter who, you just need a bunch of people to get out of bed one day and vote for you.
Yeah.
What are you gonna have to do to say to do that? It's like get people angry. That's pretty much the only angry or scared.
Yeah. And make them feel like you're the savior somehow. You're going to save them from this thing that you've made them afraid of.
That's representative democracy for you.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's why people like. Well, do you know what? I'd rather have a dictatorship. I'd rather have something else than that.
Yeah.
Why is that held up as like the most amazing thing in the world, especially these days? Have you ever watched? I remember Americans talking about our Prime Minister's Question Time. Was it Wednesday, 1 p.m.? So Wednesday, 1 p.m., the Prime Minister of the UK has got to go to Parliament, has got to sit there, and has got to answer for an hour. Is it like 4 or 5 or 6 questions from the opposing side?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that, and if you're in America, Trump doesn't have to do anything like this; he can just ignore the other side completely. But they've got to go on there, and it's like touted as this like really like wow, what a great democratic process. But if you actually listen to Prime Minister's Question Time, it is the most frustrating hour of your life because the opposing side asks a question, and the Prime Minister just stands up and says something and doesn't answer it, and then the other side ignores what they said and says something else, and it's kind of not even a conversation. It's not even. It's a nonsensical because all they're really trying to do is get the sound bites, which can be clipped and put onto something. So it's just like two people talking and then just not even answering the question. And see, like, what is it's so perfunctory. It's so. That's raised up as a democratic ideal, but I look at it, I'm like, I just can't even watch this anymore. No. It's just I can't watch a clip of it
as well. Is like they're not trying to have a conversation. They're just kind of like jeering,
jeering, yeah. And the sides have got to go whoa, and you're like, you're supposed to be running this country. Yeah. Could you just put some effort into it? Just grow up for God's sake. Have a real debate. Have a real participatory debate and dialogue where you're not trying to just,
Just one thing that's sort of relevant on this that I got in my notes is that a lot of the founding fathers of America were like really against democracy, but they also kind of knew that that's the direction they need to go in terms of getting people on board with this new country and following them and kind of buying in. And basically they had this fear that if you introduce democracy, you'll get ruled by the people, which several of them referred to in different places as being like mob rule, that people were like fired up about something and that like it'll just descend into chaos, and particularly it'll descend into chaos with groups that feel disenfranchised trying
Yeah.
to sort of take power from those who have more, such as the founding fathers. And James Madison, in one of his, he wrote loads of kind of like paper, sort of political papers with his theories, and one of the things he said was that that they could introduce this like these representatives who would be there to refine the views of the public by passing them through what he said, by passing them through the medium of a chosen body of citizens whose wisdom may best discern the interests of the country. So basically it's like, we'll give them democracy, but we'll let them vote for people, not ideas. And the people will be our people. And those people will refine the views of the mob.
Yeah.
To make sure that they like channel into the things that like serve our interests. Spin doctors, yeah.
They'll just be there. They'll just craft a narrative which works for the mob, and then the narrative that works for everything else, and then everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah.
But nothing's really ever going to happen that helps the people.
And I think that's basically the system that we've got in Western countries. Is that kind of, it's the theatre of democracy rather than the reality. It's a theatre of democracy.
I mean, to be, it also would have been very, very hard to have like a real participatory democracy in the 1800s, because what are you going to do? You're going to get everybody to vote on every single issue that goes through Parliament. It's kind of pretty hard. You do need kind of this just the fundamental mechanism of being able to have like a smaller group of people who are in one place who can actually vote on things. So that was also kind of necessary. So again, why I think technology is actually going to help us, or could be used to help us. And I told you before, we still vote in the UK Parliament by physically walking into a corridor, by physically walking down the stairs. And the yes to the vote is this corridor, and the right to the vote is that corridor, and you've got to get in the corridor before the doors close. Then once the doors close, the voting's finished, and someone just counts the people in the corridor. That's the in the age of we've on the cusp of super intelligent AI. That is how democracy is handled in the UK, and maybe we can do better, right?
Yeah,
it is just insane.
But I think
come on, just give them a clicker. Yeah,
give them a clicker.
Just give them a clicker.
Put your hands in the air on the right.
Yeah, just like a freaking yeah.
But I think what you're touching on though is an issue of scale to some extent. Like there's the technological issue, but there's an issue of scale, and I think if you mentioned about like your organization, Green Software Foundation, is a relatively small group of people,
small scale,
and I think in a relatively small group of people, you can get people together and have a really meaningful conversation about something and find some sort of consensus on an issue and then move forward with it. And once you scale it up beyond like, I don't know, 15, 20 people, even certainly beyond like 100 or so people, you're really getting into territory where it's hard to have people's voices heard in a meaningful way. And then you scale out geographically as well, where those people aren't even like near each other, they can't sit in the same room. And you've got millions of people scattered over like thousands of square miles. Then this whole idea of governance is particularly wicked. And I think alongside whatever might be the right solution for like national governance, there is some case in my mind to have, I don't like the word devolution because I think that's been a really dodgy thing, but just more like local participation and more kind of distributed governance. Maybe that's the word, distributed governance, where it's the decisions are more made by the people to whom they're relevant. So if this is something that like it affects everybody and it needs to be made at a national level, then it gets done at that level. But if it's something that actually it really just affects the people in your village, then like, you do have like a parish council in England, and parish councils are generally pretty useless. And I was actually on the parish council in our village for a while, and horrified by not just how useless it was, but how corrupt it was, which really took me by surprise. But the idea of having like a little local parish council, if it followed the sort of model that you're using at the Green Software Foundation, could be really powerful if they actually were able to like bring people together as a community and say like, look, these are the things that we're trying to achieve, and these are the problems we're facing. What do we do about it? Everyone can have their views, and we'll find consensus. And you had a mechanism for finding consensus. I think that would be amazing. And then you maybe could even use those local like hubs to feed into this bigger national thing.
Yeah.
Whereby they're not like two separate systems, because actually it's like, oh, there's this big national thing he's discussing. Let's get together in our local hub and have our discussion. And
have our discussion.
Yeah, and the answer to that will somehow feed up into the bigger whole.
Well, I think what's very interesting is I think we are actually getting to the stage, especially with generative AI, where you actually can have very large scale participatory discussions, because like the way, like there's been other technology that's been invented so far. This thing called polis, which kind of very large scale. How do we get like a massive like country to get together, and the way that works is you put in a like you can go onto polis on a topic and go like, here's my consensus statement on polis. And everybody else can vote on it and go, actually, I agree with the way Tom's done it. And someone else goes, I don't quite like Tom's one. I want to do this one. Actually, no, I prefer this other slightly different version. So it's a way that you can always, you can all come together and agree on just a statement, which I think is ultimately the way I deal with consensus. So you're agreeing to words. That's ultimately what you're trying to do, is just agree to a set of words. But the problem is what are those statements that you want to come to agreement on? What are they? Like, have those statements actually been come through deliberation? And it's a thing that kind of we've been doing at the foundation. I've been doing it in terms of even how we run it as a staff, as an organization. Like when we want to come to an agreement on something, like typically these days I just ask everybody, like, here's the question, take your time. We have we use GitHub a lot, so it's like just put your thoughts in as an answer to this question. And actually these days I adamantly say, don't type, use something which transcribes your voice. Because one of the things I've discovered is like people just speak about something, they tend to you tend to get more understanding and more flavor out of it, and they use more words to explain this topic, and the self-editing doesn't happen as much, and they say more of the truth.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And then the thing that we do is we use AI, and we say, AI, look, parse what everybody said. What are the things everybody agrees on? What are the things everybody disagrees on? And what are the outlier opinions?
Yeah.
And then we tend to have a call where we ignore what we all agreed on, because we don't need to discuss what we all agreed on. It's a waste of time. And we just discuss kind of like these other things, and we especially discuss the outliers, and it's kind of like, and from that, we record those conversations and we pass that into the AI, and we say like, hey, like, what is and we try and we get the AI to form like the consensus view of everybody and we're giving it an input. But I haven't kind of like walked in and gone, do you know what? I want the bill to look exactly like this. This is the language I want the bill to have. I'm just giving you what I'm thinking. I'm like talking. I'm just having a conversation. What are the things that are important to me? What are the things that are important to you? And with like generative AI, it's doing a really good job these days. And we're not the only ones doing it. There's a bunch of people who are just really excited from a digital democracy perspective of, listen, for all of its faults, it does a pretty good job of getting this bunch of text from a bunch of people and going, do you know what? I think you would all agree on this.
Yeah.
And then people go, and you can vote on it, and then you can adjust it, and you can manually adjust it. So if I think of a participatory democratic process that we would have in the future, it would be like, hey, everybody, there's a war going on in this country. What do you reckon we should do? And just everybody in the country could just like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And actually, if you had to
give their
talk to
thoughts,
it, that might be...
yeah.
Well, it might not just be really informative, but it might even be more accessible.
Yeah.
If the technology was...
Yeah, language barriers as well.
Provided in a way whereby you don't have to type it out, you don't have to feel confident writing, like... To write something really meaningful is quite a daunting thing. Whereas if somebody or an AI talks to you like a human and says, hey, what do you think about this? And all you have to do is just reply verbally. That's so much more, so much less daunting. It's so much easier to engage with.
Yeah, and then what I've noticed about it is you can just go like, I don't know, mate. I just think, oh God, it's a very complicated question. I suppose, like maybe if how about actually forget about that. I didn't really, ignore. I don't think that. I actually think this. Actually, no, right. And you can, as you're verbalizing your answer, like you've evolved it. Whereas if you're typing, you kind of in your head want to think it through and you want to write.
Because you're trying
like
to deliver like a finished solution rather than talking out loud is an active thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The things, and this is more anecdotal for me, but I think there is studies that have shown that an AI generally performs better than more tokens, more words you give it. And if you speak rather than write to your AI in your AI communication, you tend to provide 4 times more tokens.
Right.
So, and a lot of those tokens might be, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But it does seem to, but anecdotally for me, it does seem to give much better results if you just even, like people are worried that you have to give it like the perfect explanation, but it prefers a lot of words that aren't perhaps perfect to a few words that you think are perfect for the types of challenges that I'm asking it to do, which is to find consensus.
Which are kind of nuanced human discussions.
Yeah. So that could work at scale. I think. But how do we? But like, it doesn't matter. Just because I said that's true doesn't matter. How do we actually change the UK government? And here's my pitch to you.
Okay.
Right, here's my pitch to you. Okay. We form a political party. So it doesn't start well. It doesn't start off. Let's start it. We form a political party because you have to. Because we're not going to. We're not gonna. You and I are not gonna get guns and go to war and do a revolution in this country and get rid of everybody and implant like a whole new process of governance.
And
we're not
even
going to do that.
If we did, I think we might have sacrificed our values in the process.
Yeah. Sacrifice. You will be kind to each other. So we have to, and I was thinking about it from the perspective of software engineering, and I was thinking about it from the perspective of design patterns. One design pattern in software engineering is the adapter pattern, where you take an existing system and the existing way it interacts with you, and you put an adapter on it, and so that then you can make it work with your other system that you really want it to work with. So what's an adapter pattern for the UK political process? It would be for us to have our opinions and publish bills, we would have to have a political party that is voted in.
Yeah.
We would have to have MPs who sit in Parliament. But here's what we do is we have a political party, and every single issue that we're not electing representative MPs who then make those decisions for us. We're electing USB ports. If you become an MP for our political party, I would say like you're not allowed to have a personality. You're not allowed to give presentations. You're not allowed to give talks. I would say you wear the same clothes every single day as everybody else. I would go, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I would go so as far as you have to shave your head, no makeup, no nothing. You have to change your name to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like literally, you are just there. Your only function is to, when the time comes, you stand up, you go down the stairs, and you go into the corridor. That is your only function as an MP, because we need an adapter. We need somebody there to do that.
Yeah.
And what and every single issue that's getting discussed in Parliament goes through this So if you're a member of this political party, you're not just a member of a political party. Like I'm a member of the Green Party, and the Green Party actually does do a reasonable job of like in my area at least, they try and do a bit participatory and they've got stuff going on. But you're a member of this party, you're deliberating issues. And issues come down, you have deliberations, you give your opinions, and then we figure it all out. And the MPs that are elected are the ones that then go and they are not allowed in any way, shape, or form to go against what the membership of the party has agreed to on this particular issue.
Automatic expulsion if they go against.
Automatic expulsion, yeah. And we could just put somebody else in, and they'll just get elected. Like,
Yeah.
and you go in and they vote and they come out. After 4 years, you can grow your hair back. You can have a personality, and we thank you so much. We honor you for being this vessel and this vehicle for us. But you sacrifice for 4 years, and you sacrifice for 4 years and you do it. That's the pitch, and so that's the political party. And if you think about it, the way you just have this participatory thing here, and then you have to have this thing which just adapts to whatever the political system of that country is.
Yeah.
So then you could like roll this out throughout the world, and like France could have it, Germany could have it. You just have to have this thing always works the same way.
Yes. Yeah.
You just have to have this other thing that works in a different way to map in.
Yeah.
That's how I think we solve it.
I'm actually really on board because you mentioned that we were going to be talking about this topic a couple of weeks ago, and I'd been thinking about it, and I hadn't thought through all the details that you've just described, but the one thing that came to my mind was you're going to need placeholder candidates, which is very similar to what you're saying, and that's literally what I think they would be. Is like you're a placeholder, and you're doing a service, you're doing a duty to society by doing that.
Yeah.
The one concern I have is shaving the heads, and which sounds really trivial, but I don't think it is. And the reason is that however technologically neutral we try to make the system, the other parties are going to be like selling personality.
Yeah, true. They would sell personality more, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and they would double down on that if we went with these like literally kind of cookie cutter like neutral people. And I don't know how you get around that, but I think maybe just not going too hard on it in terms of like the identity aspect, and making them feel like they are humans who represent you rather than they are like bots that represent you. Because I think the idea of the political party is fundamentally, like, could be like really revolutionary as a step forward for society. But I think a lot of normal people would be put off by the idea that they would think like the other parties would try to kind of discredit it, saying, oh, it's like an AI party, it's all like computers, and they would try to like sell this narrative that like makes people afraid of it. And I think actually like just from a kind of PR point of view, which sadly there would have to be a PR angle to it, we'd need to sell the human, like the human side of it. And I think having the representatives look like humans, like there's a sweet spot where they're not too individual, but they do look like humans who care about something, but they're also very neutral people who are like, look, I don't have any views. I am just here to be the vessel to like represent the community's views. I think there's a sweet spot to that, but like everything, nuance is the challenge.
I'm quite firm on the shaving of the heads.
Well, I mean, certainly is like a good test of.
Well, I don't have anything. See, it's not that bad. You see, it's okay. Don't every.
That beards. I mean, it's a bit unfair
beards.
if you. Can...
No, I think no beards as well. Yeah. I think. Well, okay. What am I trying to get to through here? Let me speak more deeper with that, because I'm scared with what you're describing about them having personality, because I don't want. You can't have their ego or opinions showing up. You can't have their... They truly do have to be this vessel. Like, I don't even really want them to express emotions in Parliament, because that could be construed in a certain way, like, oh, 29.3, oh, he seems to like that, or 29.3 seems to like blah blah from over there, like what's going on? And so there has to be, for them to be placeholders, I think they have to. They do have, and I think as a human being, it'll be hard for me if I wanted to be a placeholder politician. It's a big sacrifice to do what we're asking them to do, and there'll be a lot of pressure inside me to go like, I don't agree with this, or they really just have to let go of their own opinions and their own thoughts. They're not there for that. So that however that's represented, I think that has to be the way. And I don't know, maybe shaving. I just imagine if they've got different haircuts, like, oh, so and so wore a different haircut today. That's their signaling that this isn't
like
an issue.
A news item as well, right?
A news item,
some trivia to like hang itself on. Yeah,
they have to be completely unnewsworthy in the slightest. But maybe another way of describing what you're putting is this way: is like, we don't celebrate them, but we celebrate others. Like, for instance, behind this person is this pyramid of like, there'll be like dozens of people in their community who will be like actively working towards issues, and maybe they're allowed to be vocal and to present the arguments that, this is why 29.3/D is voting this way today. They can't tell you because they're not allowed to speak, but we will tell you as the committee of Malvern, why we came up this way, and there can be other personalities there. There are, if you want to make it a personality, there can be other personalities there. But I do think, and it's almost also just to poke a finger at the ridiculousness of the party.
Yeah.
Like, if we can put people in that room who show complete and utter disdain for what's going on, not disdain, because they won't show anything, but just
but it
demonstrate, yeah.
But it does stick a finger up to it. If you have like a growing number of people standing in Parliament who are dressed in outfits that basically says like, screw you, we're changing the system. And they don't engage in any of the jeering and the fake debates. They just turn up when they have to turn up, and when they need to do something for their duty, like there's a vote taking place, they need to be there.
Yeah.
But they're not there to win points or get sound bites for the media, because none of that's relevant. So they literally just turn up and they're respectful and polite, and when they're asked questions, they just say, well, this is my community. The community of Malvern believes this. Yeah. That's it. That's their statement.
Yeah. That's it. And it kind of will. And then when people, I don't know, you're right. There will be criticism. They'll be laughed at.
Yeah.
Completely laughed at.
They're gonna have a really thick skin. I mean, we really need. Basically, I mean, you're basically describing Buddhist monks.
Yes, I am
the ideal candidate.
Right, literally, yeah.
To be able to just
Buddhist
sit there
monks.
and let it just like wash over them and be completely centered.
And I think it has to be. I truly think it's a very honourable thing. It should be a very, very, very truly honourable thing to do. Like, you sacrifice yourself for 4 years. You're not allowed to have a. I mean, I think even a picture of one of these people like having a fun time is like gonna shatter the illusion, So it's really got to be something that is there. But I think then if I'm somebody watching this, there's gonna be people going, God, that's ridiculous. Then there's gonna be other people going, I like that. I get it. Yeah, screw them. Yeah, we keep on electing these people. That's not working. Maybe this is the thing that works. And then you'll find out people who are actually in the party. And then, do you know what? It's actually very active. Okay, I have to, once a week, spend 2 or 3 hours on calls or answering questions and deliberating and giving my explicit opinion and researching. I have to research a topic before I'm allowed to give my opinion on it. It's very active. It's very involved. It wouldn't just happen. There'd be communities of people that'd be meeting up on a regular schedule. They'd be proud. You would identify as this. I'm proud. I'm part of this party. I'm wearing my party badge or whatever it is.
Well, in a way, the party would be a non-party Like, it's a party because you
Yeah.
have to have a party registered on paper in order to stand in the election. But actually, what it represents is like the oneness of society or the oneness of the community, and so it's not like I found with local things, because I've been a member of the Green Party for years, and I've been involved in organising loads of events that were like just community events, completely non-political,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they get generally like really good engagement. And every now and then, like someone in the Green Party will be like, "Oh, can you help organise this event? Or could you organise an event in collaboration? An event like a film screening that's like just like the other events
Yeah.
you organise, but this one's like
Yeah.
with the Green Party because they want to show this film that's related to something that they stand for." And honestly, like the engagement, as soon as you put Green Party on it, like community engagement just plummets.
Drops?
People are like,
Oh, really?
it's like, oh, this is a political thing. I'm not. I don't really want to go to a political thing, and especially if it's like they're
Yeah.
not a member of the Green Party, they don't want to come.
Mm.
And so I feel like, just from my own experience, people are very weary of like anything political. And actually, so there's this thing where I feel like the candidates sort of almost like what they're representing is like non-political representative, where
Yeah.
it's just they're just like you say, they're just the person who is the conduit between what the community wants and the system that is there to deliver it. And you need these ways of getting people involved in these like discussions to actually find out like what are you concerned about, what does need solving, what are the dreams you have, and in a way they need to be held in a way that's not about like being a member of the party. It's actually like it's very explicitly about everybody coming together in these community hubs. And I don't know how you communicate it, but you communicate it in a way where it's like it's not about the whatever we call the party. It's about getting everybody engaged, because as soon as it becomes feeling like it's a thing that like, oh, people who vote for this party go to these community hubs and they have a discussion, then it's already kind of failed, because now the people who vote Conservative, the people who vote Labour, the people who vote Liberal Democrat, etc., don't show up because they think this is not for us. So you need to like frame it in a way where they're almost semi-independent. They follow a structure, but they're also kind of independent of the political party, like registered political party. And the registered political party has a part of its process says we basically pick up the information from these independent community hubs.
I hear you're coming from,
and channel it in and represent and feed that into government. And we're just a neutral conduit. We're just like the cable that goes between the two. We're apolitical, yeah. Could be the name of the party.
It could be like
it's apolitical.
Apolitical. I mean, I think because that could be like one of the ways. Because imagine if this did become popular, other politicians might say, "Do you know what? We're aligned. So I'm going to keep my hair. I'm actually also just going to always vote the way Saul agrees to vote. Please keep me elected."
Yeah.
So they could be like people that kind of align, and then that might be interesting. But I also so like if we were like try to, I think you make a good point. Like, how would you actually start? Like, I just described like a mechanism, but you're even going like grassroots. How do you even start this? Like, how would you? You're in Malvern, right?
No. No, I thought you were just using Malvern as just some like random place.
I just thought you were in Malvern. I forgot you're in Malvern. I'm in Crawley. I said Crawley.
I'm nowhere near Malvern. I'm in the New Forest.
I'm in. I don't even know where Malvern is. So I'm in Crawley. Oh, do you want people to know that? That's close. I think I've said it before. So I'm in Crawley. How would I literally start it today? And you're right. Like, if I walked around door to door going, I'm starting a new political party, it's actually really cool. All your opinions get in, and we're not going to have somebody actually in there for a while, but let's do it. But what we probably would want to do is just go, hey, look, we're going to now, go to there's a building up the road where everybody. It's a weird building where all of the things happen. So we go, we're going to have a conversation there about X topic. You can come in, whatever party you are, you're just going to come in. We're going to have a conversation on it. We're going to record it. We're going to, at the end of it, create this, document which says this is the opinion of Crawley. And then, you're going to come in. It's got nothing to do. You come in the Green Party, Conservatives, whoever it is, you're going to come in. Everybody is guaranteed to have their voice heard because we want to hear everybody's voices. We want to record everybody's voices.
Yeah.
So you've always got an opportunity.
And I'd say with that, one of the things you could add to that is you have these in-person meetings, but you also have like the app where it's like if you feel your voice wasn't heard, you just click on the thing in the app for that particular meeting or issue within a certain time frame, and you hit record and you express your opinion, and it all gets fed in.
I mean, we could just do it all async. I mean, we could start off asynchronously as well, and just do like just do leaflet, just post leaflets through people's doors, QR code, snap it, speak for a minute or two about this topic, and then that's it. And then also we're having a meeting where maybe to map what we do in the foundation, like everybody asynchronously gives their points, and then we're then going to have a meeting about the stuff where everybody seems to have disagreements on. People can present kind of like their position on stuff, and then we're going to ask you to give another blurble voice. And then at the end of the whole process, we can go, oh, God, this is everybody's opinion. We've presented that, we've given this document now to, we're conservative. No, I think we just flipped. I think we're Labour now.
What happened?
We literally split, I think. It was just, I think we flipped. I can't remember. I don't like Labour as well, so I was like, had a huge argument with the Labour guy.
I see Crawley flipped.
But Crawley flipped, yeah. Crawley flipped.
Right.
Anyway, so you'd give it to the Conservative, you'd give it to all the party members, and you can say like, we've given it all to party members, but also we've also got, somebody you can vote.
Yeah,
you can vote for who's separate.
And actually,
if you want, and they're guaranteed to vote on this thing the way you said. Yeah.
That's kind of amazing because then you're actually also feeding into the current political system in two ways. One is direct, getting elected and being guaranteed to represent the views of the community, and the other is like, well, we basically solicited the views of the community and we've put them out in public so that the other candidates can't claim that they're representing the views of the community
because we did it.
Yeah, if their policies are different from what the community has said, then it's there to see in like broad daylight.
Yeah, so when they say, "Well, my constituents said this," you can say, "Well, actually, no. This is the deliberative process that we had, which involved 500 people from the community, and these are all their positions of views, and you're actually against it."
Yeah. So even without winning seats in Parliament, you were already starting to positively affect the current political system. And I like the idea of putting leaflets through doors with QR codes on, because then you're sending an immediate signal that this is about you having a voice and you being part of the community and the system of governance. Because even before the election, even before you voted, scan the QR code, start expressing your views, and it's actually being heard because it's all feeding in. That's kind of revolutionary not revolutionary in the sense that it actually like immediately transforms society, but revolutionary in terms of the experience of being a citizen in this current democratic system.
Would you believe it? I mean, if I got a QR code, I don't know if I'd believe it. I'd also wouldn't necessarily, if this was like completely raw and fresh, I wouldn't necessarily believe that the pitch that, okay, if I gave 3 minutes of my time, it really is going to be kind of like done, listened to, or whether it's just going to be ignored and actually they have their fixed thing they're going to publish at the end. So like, I don't know how I'd convince people to believe in it.
I think it's going to be hard, and I think part of it, part of it, I think, is giving people the opportunity to actually like register their account as a citizen, and in some sort of way where they can, when they like open the app on their phone, there's like, I think there has to be an app, but then also we have to figure out how we engage people who can't use apps. But I think like to have it there, so there's a record of all of your contributions, I think would be quite important. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I spoke to the thing and it just got lost in the ether. I can log in and see like, oh, that's what I contributed, and it's acknowledged visually. I think would be important. But also, I think having like the system itself somehow open source, which I know is difficult with like AI systems because they are kind of a bit black box.
Yeah.
But the more that it can be transparent in that way, so that other people can come and look at like, how does this system actually take these views and interrogate them and come to a conclusion. Even just like publishing stuff about that system in the most transparent way possible about how does it work, I think would be, the more that could be done to do that, the more trust would be earned, I think.
Could you do this whole thing with like, I was just talking to you about it as if like, what if you and I'm not saying for real, but there's a playing in my head. What if you and I were to really try and do this? Like, what would we do? Like, what's the things that we do? But you just threw out open source there, which made me think, what if you created the framework, which then anybody could just, I'm going to use this framework, and I pop it in, download it, npm install. I've got the hub for my region, and maybe because you can't stop that. That's the interesting thing. Like if it was just you and me, they could assassinate us, assassinate us, and we'd be over. But you can't stop a piece of code. Like it's just gonna
and it also means it can spread to other regions, like you said, that the model can be picked up by other communities in other countries who can just use it straight away and get going. And if they want to, because it's open source, if they see like, oh, well, you could have done this a bit better, they can evolve it, and that can then feed back and so on.
Yeah.
So, I think that would be... I think doing that as an open source project could in itself be really powerful. But I do think this is where it gets tricky. Well, it gets tricky in many places, but I do think that like there's a sort of there's a technological investment required up front, as well as a sort of marketing investment required up front to like get people engaged and on board, and both in terms of recruiting candidates as well as getting all these leaflets out into people's houses with the QR code so that they can start engaging. And in a way that like sadly it comes back to money, and then you're like, oh, we need to get the money from somewhere. So then you kind of, we need some sort of benevolent benefactor who believes in the vision, which I actually think you could find. I think there are rich people who are, you might not agree with all of their views and how they got rich and so on, but I think there would be wealthy people out there who would be prepared to put money into something like this because they believe in the idea, on the basis that like this is kind of an uncontrollable thing. They can't control it with their money, but there would have to be safeguards in place to make sure that was the case.
There would have to be. Once you start taking money from, because one of the things I was thinking about was, to be a member of this party, it would, like, I'm a member of the Green Party. I pay like 50 quid a year. Yeah, I think 50 quid a year.
Yeah. I think I pay less than that because I think they're still charging me the student rate.
It's their student rate. Yeah. But I'm also not engaged really with the Green Party, to be honest with you. It's not a real criticism of the Green Party. I just a lot of these local issues don't really. Anyway, what if it was £1,000 a year, 2,000? What if it was a percentage of your income?
For what?
To be a member of this party.
But do we want people
to have the?
In a way, I think this idea of members of the party is the thing that worries me a bit, because then it becomes this kind of tribal thing in the negative sense of tribal, which we discussed on a previous episode, where it's like there are these people who are members of the party, and it sort of feels like somehow they are the people being represented, not the community. So in a way, I feel like it almost needs to be more like a charity, where you're not becoming a member of the party, you're just pledging to like donate £1,000 a year or £10 a year or £10 a month or whatever it is you can afford. You're just donating it to the cause rather than becoming a member where then you're somehow more important than other people.
Well, I think there is, but there has to be something. Like if you're going to, I do think, cause when you talk about the kind of this deliberative consensus process, it only really works when the people who are engaging in that conversation are engaging in good faith. They're educating, or they're willing to educate themselves on the topic, and they really are, and they're willing to be kind of open a lot of this other stuff. And so I think that, like, whether we call it members of the party, there does have to be, I think, a filtering process where you can't. Yes, I mean that's what I take this back from what I just said before about you get everybody's opinion in the community. You kind of, maybe that's a step one, but there does need to be a if someone is uneducated unwilling to be informed on a topic, and then just blah blahing the first thing they said, then I don't think that should count as much as somebody who has put effort in to be educated on a topic and willing to put even just the time. I mean, it takes time just to absorb a lot of information. It takes time to deliberate with others. It takes time to listen to their points of view. Then that. So that when I was thinking members of the party, I was thinking of the set of people who are willing to spend time in the governance activity. That's what I think are members of this party.
Yeah. But then you're earning it with contribution rather than money. Because as soon as you make it about money,
true.
Then it's just you're kind of, I don't know.
So the funding model has got to be different to
the actual governance
power. Yeah. So the power that you have, and I think there should be, for whatever, like there should be people who perhaps have more. I don't know. Pin it for now. Have more power just because they've contributed more rights perhaps, or more responsibility. Put it that way. More responsibility because they've contributed. Yeah. But the funding has to be completely separate to the decision-making process, which I suppose, because of the very nature of how we make decisions in this party, it would naturally be separate. Like in existing political parties, the reason you don't like big funders is because that one person you elected eventually makes a decision.
Yes.
Whereas in this thing, if there's many people involved in making a decision, it doesn't matter that a billionaire got involved and gave you money, because he has to change.
It depends. Because in reality, let's just say this idea really resonated with the public and it started to catch on. The first thing that the billionaire class would do is think, okay, if this is trending in the direction of actually working, how do we either stop it or co-opt it? And to co-opt it, like if I was a billionaire, I mean, I'm just off the top of my head, I'm like, I'd put a load of money in, and then I'd like help fund the platform because they desperately need money because it's like a grassroots thing. So then the people who are kind of really close to the center of this thing are going to be really grateful to me because I gave them like £10 million to fund this. So they're going to be really grateful to me. I mean, £10 million is probably not within there's rules like about donations, but there are ways around that.
Yeah. A job.
Yeah, exactly. And some like subsidiary companies that make smaller donations. It all adds up to £10 million. Anyway, so then I'd kind of like get cozy with the people at the center of it, and I'd be like, well, I've funded the platform and made it all possible, and I've got these great people who are like really high caliber from like, they've been to like the best universities, and they're like super intelligent, and they would make the best like community facilitators, and and I can get these like incredible people as a favor for you to come and help like facilitate these community debates, and then right there is like it's like the that's it like these. It sounds like an offer too good to refuse.
Yeah.
But and suddenly they've co-opted the community debates.
Yeah. So I think yeah. So do you have to think about how it's going to be gamed? And there's other ways that it can be gamed as well. Like you mentioned open source thing before, and one of a casual thought I had was like, well, if it's open sourced, somebody could then just fork it and kind of do like a crappier version of our thing, which is more focused, has the same name on the tin but different stuff on the inside, and then it kind of ruins the brand image of everything. Another thing they can do is just
the demagogue fork.
Yeah, the demagogue
that
fork.
promises the public everything they dream of, but never intends to deliver.
And then just the AI just like weighs like these 5 people's opinions higher than these other people's. Like you can tweak it. And there's those issues as well. Like you could game the AI, but you could game everything. Everything can be gamed. But like, how would you? I mean, it would mean they would need to have like ultimate transparency.
Yes.
Throughout, like if there is money, the thing is, it might not even just come through money. It might just come through favors, and it might just come through people. They might just do Facebook adverts for everybody in Malvern, so that it kind of like psychologically presents them this text, and when they get given the answer, they psychologically regurgitate this text. It could be like,
this is the thing. You've got like the power of the media, and in all of its forms, and that already, like, you know, going all the way back to like, you know, the early days of like, you know, the printing press, it has been used by powerful people to manipulate public opinion, because you share narratives, you share stories, you share ideas, and you share fears of things people should be afraid of through the channels that are, you know, feeding people's minds every day. And so you're going into these community forums to solicit people's opinions, and actually those opinions are not neutral. Those opinions are shaped by the media, and the media is controlled by powerful interests. So in a way, that's kind of an Achilles heel of the... It's do you know what I mean? The system, I think, is a huge step in the right direction, but it may result... Well, it doesn't add a problem. It solves a problem, but it doesn't. It only solves half the problem. The other half of the problem is how do you stop powerful people using the media in all of its forms to control thought, basically.
I mean, if we look at even though we say like the media does control, I mean, looking at the media landscape today, I'd say a lot of that has lessened. I mean, there's a lot of narratives that the mainstream media want people to portray, but have completely collapsed in everyday people. So I suppose that it is still there, and I still think, and I also think they'll just get better at it. They'll get better at figuring out how to figure it all. You know.
Yeah. In a way, maybe
like manipulate.
That's just like the long game that you have to play. Is that you just accept that there will be this media manipulation, but what you're doing is you're presenting a new way forward, which is pure in its intention and its design, and you're kind of relying on the evolution of society to become better over time at discerning truth, particularly through like independent media and so on. And
also maybe like the consensus positions of people would then help shape the narrative in the mainstream media as well, because then again, as you said, as politicians say, the world is X in Malvern, then you can say, actually, no, the world is Y in Malvern.
Yeah.
Mainstream media will say, actually, everybody believes in Y. And then you go, no, actually, no, they don't. Look, they don't. It's this, So it can kind of like be an antithesis to the
and the transparency of it has power, because anybody can go online and they can see the outcome of this discussion on this issue in Malvern, and it's right there
Yeah.
in plain text. And what they're reporting on the news is telling you something slightly different. And
Yeah.
but this is the single source of truth.
What do you think? Because I remember one of the things is there's two things, and both from sci-fi shows, a sci-fi book and a sci-fi show. Actually, three things from sci-fi shows and books. The first one is from I've forgotten the name of the film. Starship Troopers.
Okay, that's a blast from the past.
That's a blast from the past. You know, it's based in this fictitious future where it's like a fascist world. It's like a fascist world, and I always thought it was really interesting. Like one of the things in the show, in the film, was you had to serve your country to have the right to vote.
Yeah. Okay.
And I always thought that was really interesting. Kind of made, I don't know. There's probably the really edges to that, but it kind of made sense to me that like you have to have done something to have the right to vote. I mean, do you? I don't know exactly how I feel about this, but should you just have the right to vote if you do not know about a topic?
Yeah.
Should you have the right to vote if you have not had some lived experience on a subject? Should you have so that's like one thought I had.
Yeah.
And the other thought is another book I read years ago, and it was a hard sci-fi, and it's about like there's worlds all over the universe, and there was like this galactic council, and when there's a really gnarly decision they've got to make, they always go to this one world. Because that world, the culture of the people is, you know, they're paid, that they get most of their money from like judging, and they really put a lot of effort into helping decisions. They read the paper, they deliberate on it, and then they give the response back. And it's kind of like, you know, maybe I don't want like a representative class who can just be swayed. But I'm okay with like maybe like this 20% of the population who've put the effort in to, I don't know really what I'm talking about, but like be educated, or just put the effort in just to demonstrate that they've read the freaking bill.
Yeah.
They've read it, and they've commented on it. I don't know how you can demonstrate this stuff, but they've demonstrated knowledge on a subject, and that gives you the right to have a consensus part to play in it. But if you're just, you know, you've just come out from a club night, it's like 3 a.m, you're kind of wasted, and you give blah blah blah. Should that have equal weight? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. This is really interesting. So I think, just in terms of should you be allowed to vote on everything question, you mentioned in a previous episode about an idea that if you vote for war, by default you go on like the roster that you can be called up for the army or the armed forces, which I thought was fascinating, and I actually think it's really fair. If it's like like voting for like, shall we go to war in Iraq or not? If it's a clear binary choice like that, and you say yes, then it's like, well, now you're a like army reservist because we might need you, and you said that we should go. So following that kind of thread, I think that actually there is something to be said for there being some intelligence in the like the AI that pulls all these people's views and feeds it into these vessels that stand in Parliament on behalf of the community, whereby if it is about something that only affects women, for example, then why would men's views count? You might solicit them and you just publish it because it's interesting. But
it informs the people who will truly deliberate on the subject and have the right to... Yeah.
Exactly. So the voice, everyone can have a voice, but when it comes to the actual final like decision, If it is something where there's a clear boundary around, like it really only affects these people, then maybe only those people's views are fed in, or they're weighted in a way where it's like their views are much more significant than others. And I think it would be hard to define exactly what those issues were, because then there's some sort of, well, I don't know whether you could do that in a kind of automated way, but I think that's kind of almost like a research project that like should be undertaken, is to figure out like how do you, in an objective, fair way, decide who is affected by a particular issue, so that you can like weight it in the system. But then this other idea that you're saying about like some people are just more qualified on issues than others. There's kind of a couple of things in my mind on this. One is that
well, the Athenians thought that men were more qualified than women and slaves, so there's that.
Yeah, no. One is that maybe the AI can have some level of intelligence built into it, whereby, in a subtle kind of way, it actually is gauging people, and it's not just asking them, "What do you think about this issue?" It's asking them,
"What do you know about this issue?"
Yeah, it's asking them qualifying questions about like, you tell me what you know about this issue, and tell me about your background, and like tell me about your experiences with this thing. And so, and of course you could lie, but on balance, like that majority of people would probably be fairly, well, even if they're not completely honest, like it should be fairly clear. Like a human, if I'm interviewing somebody, generally I know if they're lying. Occasionally there's somebody very sophisticated who fools me, but but they're the minority, so you can kind of handle that, because actually they don't, when you're taking it en masse, they don't disrupt the balance too much. So I think the AI could have the intelligence to do that. But then the other thing that kind of relates to that topic that's interesting is that, if I'm not mistaken, in Plato's hierarchy of like governance systems, his top one was aristocracy, which when I read it, I was like, oh, come on, Plato, like, seriously? But what he means by aristocracy is not what we mean by aristocracy. What he, like aristocracy, if I understand correctly, what it meant in Plato's time was the people who are most qualified in their fields. So it's kind of like meritocracy, but in the pure sense that you're basically led by an aristocracy. In his view, is that you're led by a group of people who are genuine experts in their fields, and they are true public servants who don't have any agenda of their own, and they're literally just there as like, I am the expert in economics, and I am the expert in like agricultural practices and whatever it might be. And they are this like council of experts who are just there to try to do the best by the community. And of course, and then I think what that's sort of, the term has been corrupted over time to just mean basically like a group of elites. But I think it'd be hard to make Plato's vision of aristocracy work in reality, of like, how do you get these people who are, how do you select
how
them?
do you decide
how do you decide who they are?
They don't agree. And
how do you keep them pure and not like and them not get corrupted? Because often, this is my view, often people who are like really highly capable in a particular field have great shortcomings in other areas of life. Right? They tend to be quite unbalanced. If you're like extremely high performing in one area, like you're like the greatest mathematician in the world, like amazing, you're an incredible person, but they may well be not necessarily have high emotional intelligence, for example, or whatever it might be. Like I have a view that like on some level all humans are equal in capability. It's just that some people's capabilities are like really tangible and extreme. So you're like, oh my god, like can you see like how fast he ran a marathon?
In some areas,
but they may have like really, really deep flaws in other areas that balance out. And then other people seem kind of unremarkable, but actually they're just like pretty good in a lot of areas that we don't value as a society. They're just day to day, like kind of a good, decent human being. um, and because they're not extremely high performing on something that earns them fame or money or something, then we kind of just think that they're not that great, but actually they are equally great. I don't know, it's very intangible, but you know what I'm saying, that like, I think that the aristocracy idea may be flawed because those people maybe have great weaknesses in areas outside of their expertise.
Well, I think it's also like a scale problem as well. Like if you're, I mean, trying to find the greatest mathematician in the world you're going to find a lot of disagreement, a lot of flaws, a lot of mathematicians who fundamentally disagree on the same thing that you and I have got no idea what to do. Trying to find the greatest mathematician in Malvern would probably be an easier debate. Also because, like, I don't think maybe we talk about multiple levels of scale, but actually you mentioned as well, like at a lower scale, this is like very doable.
Yes.
So very doable, like at a smaller scale. And I think one of the reasons is because a lot of those issues due to, I don't even want to say anonymity, but just, you know, if the greatest mathematician in Malvern like lied to the people in Malvern, he's going to have issues. He's still living there. It's going to be uncomfortable. And he goes to Tesco's, you know, everybody's going to like spit on the floor and go, "You lied to us." You know, he's going to have to move to Crawley. So there's like lots, you know, so yeah, and you got to face the people. So at that smaller level, I think it builds that community bond. My wife's a lot more involved in the community than I am locally, but like I was giving blood the other day, and I was just like in the place going, my God, we're all from this area, and we're all just got together one day to give blood, which is such like a giving thing to do, a physical thing that we're doing, like giving parts of our body. And it was such like I don't know, it just felt like a very community. Everybody was so nice. We're all like loving and joking with each other. And so like to have that kind of that lower level community feel means that a lot more of those issues of like, what if someone's demagoguing? I mean, you still have that, but it has more, I don't know, it has less power over you. It has less power over the system. So maybe like breaking things down into smaller community governance is better. The problem is that you don't really have as much power in the local communities as you have on the broader government level. So I don't know, maybe there's something to do with that.
Yeah, I guess the question I've got that relates to this is like what governance is required within the organization itself. In order, because I do think that there's a couple of things. One is that I do think there is a value in leadership. And when I say leadership, I don't mean power. I mean vision of people saying, hey, like here's something exciting that we should move together towards as a community, as a group of people. And I think organizations with great leadership move forward and they do exciting new things and they make genuine progress because they've united people together behind a vision that they're all like pulling in the same direction to achieve it. And I think one of the problems with politics as it stands is that it's so problem focused. It's so focused on everything that's wrong. And there's so little, there's like this vacuum of vision of like where we want to go, which, you know, for all their faults and however flawed it may have been, you know, like when you have a president who says like, we're going to go to the moon, it probably wasn't the most useful thing to do for society, but like it demonstrates how you can like really rally people behind something that inspires them. And I think we just don't have that at the moment, and people feel kind of despondent and like, oh, like what does the future hold? There's nothing to look forward to, and in a way, maybe you can use this system to also solicit like vision, so you're not just getting people to contribute what they think is the right solution to a problem or the right decision on a like, because a decision has sort of been forced by circumstances. But you're also proactively inviting them to present what they would like for certain aspects of society, and then that creates a collective vision. So then the AI is sort of producing various things. There's this vision that gets held up, and there's like the Malvern vision for Malvern. I love that one, like Malvern. It's now the place where this is happening.
The place. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also a vision for like the United Kingdom, and there's a vision for like wider global society. You know, whatever levels it might be, that there's sort of these layers of vision that says like, actually, this is what most people are excited about moving towards as a society. And so then the AI is using that to guide and help facilitate some of the decision making, because when people are having these discussions, it can say like, but most people in Malvern want to move towards this type of future. So this particular argument might sound good right now, but it slightly goes against an aspect of this vision that we're trying to move towards. So how might we overcome that? And it can sort of try to join up like the short-term thinking of like, oh, we got a problem today and we're like angry about it and we need to solve it, with a trajectory that like little bit by little bit moves the people of Malvern towards a future they're excited about.
I mean, that could be. I love that actually, because I think, wow, that mean in terms of a political party, it's a very different political party. It's like you could imagine coming together to all through consensus, not agree on a specific issue, which you're right would mostly likely be, I don't know whether it's negative, but some negative aspect of it, you know, to like, what is it? I've never been asked, what country do I want this country to be? Like, what is a vision of this country that I want it to be? And I wonder if whether you're Labour, Conservative, whatever, for the most part, you might actually agree on a very similar vision for what you want this country to be. And then because it's the same, it's like, I get it from leading a business, like you're trying to make all these decisions every day, but until you figure out what the vision is, where you want to get to, none of this stuff really helps, or you just
exactly
whatever you're doing. So yeah, I love that idea, because and it'll be stunningly different from every other political party. It'll be stunningly different. It's like we're just, what is the future you want for Malvern? What is the future you want for West Sussex, which is where I live? What is the future you want for the UK, and what is the future you want for the Earth? And you just ask people to like vocalize it. The AI then goes, well, actually, you all said this was this way. You wanted this. Now this bill has come along. Or I propose that you create a bill that looks a little bit like this. Do you agree? Or this bill has been proposed. Based upon what you said you wanted the future to be, you don't really agree with this bill. Regardless of what so-and-so demagogue has told you, you actually don't agree with this bill. That could work.
Yeah. So then there's this feedback loop between all of society being able to express their views on a range of different things, from vision to like immediate, like kind of acute problems, with an AI that is there kind of digesting it all and presenting it back and saying, okay, so this is what you all want, so this is what you should do. But then it's not a one-time thing, because it's like an ongoing process, and so it's iterating both the things that need doing now, as well as the vision that we want for the future.
Yeah. I prefer that. I much prefer that model to the model of, because I don't think it's the reality is it's not that realistic that people will sit and discuss topics on a day-to-day basis. Whereas I can imagine, like, en masse, you could get all of Malvern to generally spend some effort to describe, like, this is generally what I want the world to be.
Spend 5 minutes,
agree.
hit the record button.
Hit the record button. Yeah. All right. Is this you all agreed on this? Do you agree? Yes, no? Okay, keep on going. Let's keep on going. Okay, now your constitution, whatever you want to call it. Like, this is the Malvern constitution for the future. And then moving forward, there will be like specific issues that need to be like really like gnarly issues that need to be addressed. And for that, you wouldn't get everybody to vote. It would just be a subset of the people would go, do you know what? We are now having this topic of conversation. Please weigh in. And I would bet that most people wouldn't. If it's not something you particularly care about, you wouldn't. Yes, you would then get the issues which are like hot button topics where people are like phoning in and giving their opinions who are uninformed, and like immigration topic or something, and they just don't have the right information, and I haven't got a solution for that. But for a lot of the issues, there's a lot of issues that get discussed all the time. They're not gonna phone in every week on every single hot button. There's gonna be a couple of issues. I don't know what they're gonna be, but maybe for the most part, people would actually be your AI maybe is the thing. Oh, your AI that you've trained up on your ideas would then be the thing that goes, I vote on this topic.
Right. So there's an element of like the
yeah.
personalization in the AI
Yeah.
that gets to know your personal vision, which will be slightly different from the collective vision. And
Yeah.
so it will highlight, hey, Asim, this thing that they're discussing next week is something that actually I think is important to you. So you might want to have a look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we've gone down to a personal AI.
Yeah.
Rather than the... Yeah. Well, you're feeding in a bunch of text. So whether you feed that into the collective AI, and you can feed it into your personal AI, which has only been fed your text, your familial AI, because you live in a house with other people, I suppose they matter as well. Okay.
And then we nearly cracked it. Yeah. But I also wonder, like, from that perspective, with the whole idea of like a voting age, like this concept that you've pitched is like it's still in the context of the current political system. So, for example, like when it comes to a general election, you still have to be 18 in the UK to actually vote for the party. But one of the brilliant things about this party is the fact that they could actually widen participation beyond that. And actually, it's like, I don't know how low you would go, and some people aren't comfortable with like kids having smartphones and things like that, which is probably sensible on some level, although I'm not an expert in it. Yeah. But so we need to think about a way around that. But
schools get shut down. No more schools.
Yeah. But
still.
But it comes back to that weighting thing, right? It would know. Like, it would know that you're a 12-year-old and you've said like, I don't like school. So I think schools should all be closed down and we should just be able to play all day. But there'd be a weighting in that where it's like it's not just doing what the children say. It's also factoring in what the adults say about that issue. But it is hearing their voices, and if there's an issue that's particularly important to, like teenagers struggling with social media, like what should we do about that? Then those teenagers' voices get included in that discussion. So you actually effectively you widen the vote without actually changing the voting laws in the UK. You widen the real vote, in terms of the meaning of what's being done beyond.
If there was. I mean, there's a lot of privacy issue here as well. So I think this is a gnarly problem. But just imagining if everybody had their own, because really what you're doing is if I'm describing like everybody's got their own kind of like AI, or there's multiple levels of AI, or multiple collectives of AI. It is a representative democracy, but you're having your AI represent you. At least at a very basic level in the democratic process, which I suppose could work the other way around as well, couldn't it? So then if you're the collective AI, you could go, I've come up with this idea for a policy, let me ship it out, and it's just my virtual AI is then going to do the first level of response going, do you know what, Asim will hate this.
Yeah.
Asim's going to hate this. I wouldn't put that. And the collective I would go, do you know what? All everybody's virtual AIs hated this one, so let me go back. So it could maybe even speed up the political process a little bit. And I know this is like a horrific. You could view this as a horrific world that we're also describing here at the same time. But let's imagine it's not as bad as we think. But I can imagine. You just need to train your AI to represent your views and your values, and it can update over time.
Yeah,
and then it can.
And it would be, if it's transparent, so it keeps a record of all the opinions it's given on your behalf. So you can go, just so that you can see them. You've got visibility.
Yeah,
and
log.
maybe there's a setting where you can choose whether or not you want your personal AI to respond in that way for like kind of initial views, or whether you don't want it to do that and you want to always do it manually.
Yeah.
That's
a bit in the future, man. That we now need to build like massive AIs. But so in the meantime,
now we need that. Now we need that benevolent benefactor.
Now we need that benevolent benefactor.
With no self-interest.
We need some of that Stargate project.
Yeah.
But even just as we've gone around the club. I think even just as a basic model, where forget about everybody having their personal AIs. What do you think about the whole idea of like collectively us coming together and replacing a political party? We asked a question to ourselves at the start of this podcast, which was, can we? What was the question?
Can we fix government?
Can we fix government? What do you reckon? Have we fixed government here?
No. I think we've made government
progress,
less bad, but I think the fundament. What we've done is we've sort of hacked a flawed system to make it less flawed, but you're still working within this sort of weird bureaucratic framework where things still have to be done through Parliament and like voting on bills and stuff like that. So there's kind of another layer to this conversation, which is around kind of like reimagining. Like if you just started from scratch and you didn't have to get from where we are now to where you want to go. In a way, I think what we'd end up with is you'd scrap Parliament. I just think it's not
useless.
It's not useful in any way. You just scrap it. It would just become a museum that you could go and visit. Of like, this is how we used to do things in the olden days, in this old Gothic building with these strange corridors where people would stand to vote. And you would do everything purely through the AI, and that would be the government.
Yeah.
And
you do everything through deliberation, but you'd have AI.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Speed up the deliberative process.
Yes, so exactly. And then you have basically the civil service, who, I mean, I'm sure there's problems there too, which would need to be addressed. But ultimately, the civil service is the people who work for the public to implement the governance in practice. And so they would get their directives from this system. So the people would feed in. And in a way, the civil service would also have some sort of way of like interfacing, because they're like experts on the ground of like, but we're like dealing with this,
thing.
This
you
thing.
Can't just vote this in because this won't work.
It won't work.
It will collapse. So
there would need to be some way of like bridging that. That reality without the civil service then also becoming like a power structure in itself that
ignores through inability to action on decisions that have been made through governance.
Inability or unwillingness to action what people have asked for. It's like the classic kind of IT department says no problem.
But I decided, but we all agreed, but
it's never going to work.
It's going to take 10 years. So there's a lot of that stuff.
So
we haven't fixed it.
No, there's many more layers to be fixed, because I think that what it highlights is that in reality there are many layers of governance in society, and there's power at every level. So even if you fix the civil service issue, then I'd say, just as an example, you've got the banking system, which is hugely powerful. I would argue they are significantly more powerful than government. And so they would be doing their own things to try to kind of make sure that whatever this new system of governance was doing was somehow working in their interest. And then as public debate would have inevitably turn in their direction at some point, people would start being like, "Oh, we need to talk about the monetary system," and you know, they would inevitably try to do things to like either suppress that or try to kind of redirect it, and
or just say no.
or just say no. Yeah, exactly.
like we
and they
can't.
wield a lot of power, and I don't know how that would manifest itself. I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, they have the power to crash an economy. If they crash an economy, suddenly people are like panicking about the fact that they haven't got any money, and suddenly you've got some sort of revolution that says like, oh, this AI party system thing that we voted in was brilliant for a bit, but now look, we're all poor, so now we need to vote in this demagogue who will save us from it.
I suppose I think what you've uncovered is the fundamental problem of governance, which is that there's no guarantee that the decisions that you make through any process will be honoured by the engine, and that's a whole other problem.
And the reason that there's no guarantee is because the world as it is has a huge imbalance of power, and any decision made by the masses that doesn't align with the interests of those who wield huge power will inevitably attract a response. A powerful response.
It might uncover the fact. It might uncover a deeper fact, a deeper truth about the world, which is that there has never been any governance of any form, and that it's complete theatre, and that even forget about democracy or communism or fascism or anything else like that. There are these people who we think are in power, and then there's these institutions and everything else and other kind of layers of things that the reason why the governments don't seem to do what we want them to do is because maybe they can't.
Yeah, even if they
because
want
every
to.
time they try, every time they try, they just other person just goes no, computer says no, and then that's it. And so, like we're sitting here trying to fix. We think the problem is governance, but the problem is the execution of the decisions is not guaranteed. Yeah, that's interesting.
And I feel like it highlights this huge potential to move forward in terms of public participation. And I think what you highlighted just at the end here is that actually that public participation on a mass scale could kind of pull back the curtain on the huge imbalance of power to wake people up. And I think if it wakes people up, that might somehow result in some sort of transformation in society that we can't even imagine right now, because in some ways power is an illusion, and I think if the illusion is shattered, then amazing things could happen that currently seem impossible.
Yeah. So we have to do this incredibly impossible thing to prove to people that the world is even more broken than they think that they could possibly imagine. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's get it done. All right, mate.
All right. I'll see you in Parliament.
See you in Parliament.